Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about bookish goals for 2023 today. I've had a few weeks to kind of percolate and decide what I want to focus on this year. I had a few major flops last year, and so I have some areas of focus for which I want to improve. So let's start with the easy one. I want to read 100 books as Goodreads counts them, which is an increase from my last couple of years' goal of 80. But I think with my reading consistency these days and as much fun as I'm having with it, hitting 100 shouldn't be a problem. But I'd like to be a bit more specific with it. So of that 100, I'd like 50 of those books to be fantasy books, 20% to be sci-fi, 20% to be urban fantasy, and the final 10% to be split between young adult and nonfiction. That seems like my general preference of reading anyway, very much weighted in the fantasy stuff and everything else is supplemental. And I really don't want to read more YA than about 5%. And nonfiction's just fun. It's something I throw in there here and there. And I imagine that just my natural reading progression, I won't read more than about 5%. But what that is doing is that is increasing both my science fiction consumption and my urban fantasy consumption. And I've got projects going for both of those genres that should really help. If at the end of the year I'm close to those ratios, I think I'll be happy. I want to commit to doing my A to Z challenge for an entire year. If you missed the introduction, I'll link that. But basically, I'm doing something weird. I'm very cathartically going through my collection from left to right, alphabetical order, seeing how far I can get by reading just one chapter a day. And it seems like a project that I'm so excited for right now, but then like a couple months will go by or even a couple weeks and I'll get tired of it. No, I want to keep going. Even if I mess up, I want to keep going and give you weekly updates on how that's progressing throughout the entire year. I'll make a video eating crow if I don't stick with it. But yeah, I think that's a really fun challenge. And there's something incredibly satisfying about seeing your to read section go down incrementally until you have an empty shelf. I think that would be so cool. So one chapter a day for that. Of the 100 books read, I would like 50 of them, a full half of them, to be from books that I already own. Last year, I got 38 out of 30. I blew my goal out of the water, and I think I could have focused even more on it. I have my A to Z challenge going. I've got my Read Burn Hoard. I have been strategically pitching owned books for Patreon book club, so I don't see any reason why I shouldn't hit this goal. Famous last words. And even more of a bust last year, my audiobooks challenge. I had a goal to read 30. I think I read 12. Like, it was awful. And I bought over 100 books in audio last year and maybe 200 the year before. So I am sitting on like a hefty wallet's worth of purchased audiobooks that I just don't pay attention to. So that is one thing. I would love to make a concerted effort this year to read more audiobooks, and I want to read a full 30 of them. But I'm hoping at the end of the year I'm sitting here professing how much more of that than I read. This goal is kind of weird because it's harder to implement and measure, but I would like to have finished 20 book series by the end of the year. And I kind of broke it down to try to do 2 series per month, but giving myself a little bit of wiggle room because there are series that are quite a bit longer, so that kind of skews things. So that's why it's kind of hard to measure. I am working my new strategy of very carefully trying to read from specific series and not moving on until I have wrapped those up. And then I also am picking 1 book per month for my incomplete series challenge to kind of wrap up a series, because I have a bunch of them with just 1 left to go to wrap it up. Yeah, that's where we're at. I have a Kindle Zero challenge. So I have not struggled with purchasing a ton of ebooks historically, but I do have about 10 to 15 titles on my reader that I would like to finish by the end of the year. I'm usually very careful about not picking up a book in a series unless I am currently going to read it, or things like arcs where, I have to get around to them before release date. But there are just a handful of things on there that I want to explore before the end of the year. Or delete. That's also a viable option. Like, that one's not a hard and fast challenge. If I don't make any progress on it, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. But wouldn't it be gratifying to be down to 0 in some category? Because we all know I'm never going to get down to 0 in everything else I've got going, so being able to get a win like that would feel pretty good. And finally, I would like to have physically read 24 books by the end of the year. I've been getting back into the habit of incorporating physical reading into my daily routine, and my eyes are handling it well. I went through an eye strain injury, and it has lingered over the course of the last 7 years. It's a long time. And reading was painful. Isn't that awful? My favorite hobby, and reading was painful, but this was just about the time where Audible was getting going, and luckily I was able to maintain a little bit of my routine at the time, but I missed that physical reading. I used to like sit down before bed and read 50 to 100 pages every night. That is not happening now, but right now I'm able to read in little sprints. So I'll read while I'm eating. There's 15 minutes there, 15 minutes there, so an accumulation of at least a half an hour throughout the day, and then a little bit before I go to bed. So while 24 books like break down to 2 books a month does not seem like a super ambitious goal, for me it is. For me it means that I'm reading consistently and I'm still taking care of my eyes while I'm doing it. And that's all of them. At least I think that's all of them. I feel like I'm forgetting one. So editing Nikki will interject if I have missed one, because I have so many challenges going. I have so many goals, so many things I want to do, but all things that really are enriching my reading life. I'd love to hear what some of your goals are for the year. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.